Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome back to another podcast episode here at the Life School Masterclass Show, launching 2.0. We are definitely rebranding, evolving the Life School into the next phase, all about soul led conversation, all about purpose, all about gifts, all about impact, all about service. So I'm very honored to have another beautiful soul that is joining us here today at the Life School Masterclass Show, Ellen Newhouse. And she's another beautiful human out there in the world doing beautiful work. And I'm very grateful that she's here with us, sharing some of the work that she does in the world, some of the things that she has learned in her journey, and her moments of remembering why she does what she does. So, Ellen, thank you so much for coming on. I thank you for your time ahead of time, and I'm looking forward to a beautiful soul conversation together.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited, and I just looked at the date and I see we're meeting on a very auspicious day. It's the full moon today, and oh, what a wonderful moment to gather together to work with all the souls that we'll be working with through the podcast. So thank you for having me.
Thank you for your beautiful energy and for sharing that everything happens for a reason, right? And all we have to do a lot of times is let go of the expectations, the way that things should work out. That's kind of what I've learned in my journey so far, and just to be present. So we're going to hold that space for our listeners here today as well. So Ellen, I usually, I'm not very connected to ego bios anymore, you know, achievement and like we've done this and that. I'm sure a lot of us, especially the amazing women in the world, we do more for everybody else and more for our careers and for our families and for everybody else than ourselves actually. So rather than kind of read a bio from you, I just want you to kind of share, you know, from your soul and your heart, what is it that you do in the world? What is the work that you really feel called to and you wake up in the morning excited every day to do?
Well, it has emerged over a great amount of time, but for the last 35 years, I have been integrating acupuncture with sound healing, energy medicine, and transformational coaching in a private practice and at times teaching, at times writing. So I wrote my first memoir. It was published in 2014. Um, and through it all, regardless of whether I'm doing a one on one session or I'm doing sound healing or I'm writing a memoir, or my latest is I'm producing and writing music, all of it comes back to healing because ultimately I am a healer. Um, that is what I've come to the planet to do, to bring light and joy. So the what I'm doing is less important than the being of like who am I being in this moment and how it comes out can be in very variety of ways and yesterday I found out that my latest song, which I'm so excited about, called All in a Dream, had its major milestone. It's now over 1,500 streams on Spotify, and I don't even know what's going on in the other apps, but it's such a joy because it was such a risk to start writing almost 2 years ago, and then all of a sudden to find myself writing and producing it and singing, it was like, oh my goodness. But it's really inspired by spirit and just asking, okay, what now? What now? And so the music is really front of mind this morning after finding out about that yesterday.
Whew, well, I definitely felt that because I get, you know, we all know our signs of truth when we hear
Right.
it or when something that you are saying resonates so deeply, especially
Mm.
obviously with me and I'm sure with people that are going to be listening because everybody is in their own journey. And like I began this conversation, we all, you know, in our past identities are all high achievers, right? High achieving women. We probably grew up in households where that was, a badge of honor. We always had to do for everybody. We always had to be the emotional container for a lot of the people in our homes and all of that. So we really wrapped ourselves up, including myself, in those identities. But when you start waking up to yourself and who you actually are, and you start questioning a lot of those old identity shifts, there's a big risk. It is very uncomfortable. I love that you shared that, with your music, because I connect with that as well. And I'm waking up to that. So to me right now, it's like, oh my gosh, I'm freaking out, because it's almost like, how is that going to connect to all the things I've built before, all the energy I put into my work? Because we always all have that fear, especially as women are rising, that, well, that's like, I need to fit into those old molds of me. I used to do this area. I used to focus my energy on this area and help clients and customers in this way. But now I'm waking up to something else, like, oh my God, like, what are people going to think? Who am I? They're going to be
Yes.
confused, like, that's not my identity. So how, like, what are some, I guess, lessons that you have learned in your evolution? Because that's really all it is. Either we stay small, as our levels of awareness expands, we start to connect more dots. And then there's a lot of these things inside of us that are sitting there that need to be manifested out, but a lot of us are maybe still in the hiding, especially from our visibility wounds. I know that was my journey of people pleasing. So, how have you kind of guided yourself through the process of your own evolution as a woman?
That's a great question. And one of the things, as you were speaking about the families, is I think that part of what I needed to overcome was the message, whether it was ever stated or inherent. Um, it was very clear. Your focus, my focus, needs to be on other people, on helping other people, on making sure our family is safe. And so, even when I began writing my first book, oh my God, I spent the first year really fighting. I mean, I fought with my writing coach, fought against all of the voices that were saying, what are you doing? Who are you? Why do you think you can take this time for yourself? And I'm going to stop there and just pause a moment and let everyone feel that, because I think for women there is such a message of it is not safe to focus on yourself. It is selfish. And in my case, growing up in a very dysfunctional family was not safe. If I wasn't focused on other people, somebody could have died. And that is not metaphorical, it's actual truth. It's because I had a very violent father and a mother who was more child than mother, not because she wasn't brilliant, but because she suffered with emotional disorders, mental illness. And so I think that's a very extreme case, but I think many women that I work with get the same message. It is not safe, it is selfish to focus on yourself. So, one of the very first things that I had to overcome was taking time for myself. And that actually, like, my body would shake because it literally did not feel safe. It literally was breaking through that mold. And so it took a long time, and I think I'm still working through phases of that. But especially in the first year of writing, it took the first year to really, and I was still working in my private practice, and I still am, but really taking the time for myself felt very dangerous. Have you ever felt that?
Oh, absolutely. It's the fear of survival, right? And I've also realized that because of, actually, we have a commonality in, our childhood home with some of the mental health issues as well. But we all have that, right? We all grew up in mostly dysfunctional homes because of our patterns, or maybe what we came here to heal, right? Because
Yes.
now that we have more information, we can also see how all of that was on purpose, so that we can, and we could get to do this work that you just mentioned. But that's more looking at this on the positive end. But on the lonely days and the dark moments, or when you're in that tunnel, you just feel like, this is just not something that I'm used to. So we start to default back to the old ways that we coped with life. So a lot of survival mechanisms have definitely showed up for me as well in different areas, and it's very amazing how when you get to to focus on you, as you said, give ourselves permission to focus on ourselves, with all of these things start to come up to the surface, come up to the light, so that we can start to tackle each one slowly but surely. But oh my gosh, it's very, very scary. But I've learned that through the process, as we heal a lot of these different things, we start to really learn who we truly are and how amazing and powerful we all are as women. But it's almost like we have to go through that process to come out on the other side, so that we can wake up to these things. And then I always say that we become mirrors. I mean, there's no more need of, a lot of this marketing that we used to do in the old days with business, where we used to kind of just tap into that fear and survival, thing that a lot of people had. Because on this end, it just feel everything in life feels better, because then you're just speaking from your truth, and you just get to be that authentic mirror for other people. And then that becomes your mission, but you don't know that as you're going through those dark nights of the soul, or the moments where all this stuff comes up, and you want to just start to take a look at it. Ellen, something that stood out to me that I think will be very relevant to the audience as well is the fact that, you know how have you been able to navigate, to help yourself navigate through these dark or maybe hurtful processes, or things that are coming up that you're like, oh my gosh, I don't know how I'm gonna do this work, but you do have to deal with it, because we can't just hide it anymore. How have you been able to support and guide yourself through some of these hard times?
Yeah, so right in the beginning, so if we go back a little ways, so I was a very happy corporate monster and very successful. And then I had gotten the best job of my life at 25, and I became a sales manager at Vanity Fair magazine. And a year and a half later, I woke up and I could not breathe. And at that time, I smoked cigarettes. So I thought, okay, I'll light up a cigarette. If I can see the smoke going in and out, I'm good. And then I put my tennis shoes on and walked off to work at Madison Avenue. And by 11 o'clock, I had to say uncle and admit that I couldn't breathe. And I landed in the emergency room. And little did I know that that scariest moment, and many of you will find this, the scariest moment, the darkest moment, is the beginning of a massive shift in your life if you will say yes. And saying yes may be very scary, because for me, saying yes meant saying yes to myself, because after 2 years of Western medicine, they couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. And their solution was an oxygen tank. Now, had I gone with the experts, I wouldn't be here today. We wouldn't be having this conversation. But I said yes to myself and decided that the main person I would go and talk to when all the other doctors didn't know was God. And it wasn't a religious God, but a spiritual God, if you will. And God did not show up for me that day. But what did happen was that I committed to a prayer practice like none other, because my life depended on it. Now, I wish I could tell you that that was so easy and wonderful and all my guides came. Well, they did come, but the messages that they gave me seemed crazy to me. Seemed like, what am I doing? And it seemed so illogical. And yet I decided to keep saying yes to myself, even when it felt crazy and illogical. And every time the messages came, I said yes and I took action. Believe me, there were many days in New York City running around in Harlem, in like back alleyways that I kept thinking, what am I doing? This is insane. This does not make sense. But when we're beginning to navigate new territory within ourselves, it's not going to make sense. Now, looking back all these years, oh, it all makes sense. But in those dark nights, what I had to lean on was my intuitive knowingness, and I asked for help. I asked God, my angels, my guides, and I made sure I got a good therapist. I found body workers who could help me because my body didn't even make sense. Everything felt mixed up. Everything felt backwards. Like sometimes my body even felt backwards. Um, and so I had to find helpers who could mirror back to me that I was actually okay.
Yeah. Wow. That's leading. I mean, everything always leads to the next thing, which would be the intuition. So that was going to be my next question for you, Ellen. But um, yeah, whether we call it a crisis in our life, a spiritual awakening, we go through a divorce, we go through financial trauma, we go through anything that happens, health issues. I think it's kind of what you're describing because I could just pick a lot of moments in my life that felt similar to yours, and everybody's experience obviously is different, but I think one common pattern, because I'm a pattern somebody that recognizes patterns. I realize that that's one of the gifts that I have, and we all have different gifts, and we'll go into intuition and how we're also authentic and different as human beings. But I've seen like common patterns, right, where something no longer resonates with you when you're in that catalyst moment of change. It feels everything. It's almost like what you've built, what you've known, who you've known yourself to be, they all kind of just go away, and you're kind of left in the dark. You're like, I don't know what to do. But I love that you tapped into that inner knowing, which seems to be your intuition, and the support structures and teams around you to help yourself navigate through that challenge. And you were stubborn enough to listen to your inner knowing, because I think that's the thing that we never get raised to really honor and listen to, which is our own inner compass or guidance or intuition, with knowing what's right for us at certain moments in life. We always tend to give that power away to other people because they know best for us. But just like you described, and I could just also count so many moments where I've been through a similar experience, where looking back and connecting the dots, obviously it's easier to connect the dots in the future because you already lived the past, but where you're in the moment creating the present moment, you don't know how this is all going to play out. But looking at other patterns and situations, it always perfectly does align when you do listen to your intuition. So what have you discovered around your intuition, and how to start trusting yourself to honor how that comes to you, because it comes to us through different forms?
Yeah, so what I want to share is that for people just beginning, it may not feel clear at all, but the more you ask, the more you say, okay, intuition, all right, what do I know to be true in this very moment? And I unfortunately was suffering with extreme anxiety, and I think that is a common, um, seems to be a common um, issue when people are
Symptom,
breaking.
outside physical symptom, yeah.
Yes,
Hmm.
when you are breaking through from the old you to the new you, this seems very common. So I want to give first that is like, what can you do when you're in severe anxiety? What is being asked of you in that very moment is to come into this present moment. And that can be very scary because most of our thoughts go to the past or the future. Very few of us spend much time in this present moment. So, what I began to do, just, I don't know, something in me, my intuition was guiding me, was to say, what do I see? What do I see in this present moment? And I had to learn, well, I could quickly run off. I see a clock, I see three paintings, I see a lamp, and that did not help me. And my intuition taught me, slow down. Tell me specifically, what do you see? Oh, I see a pink clock. It has peculiar art on it. It has two hands and they are painted differently. Do you see? It had to come so specifically to bring me into this moment because most of us don't trust this moment. We're either agitated by the past or afraid of the future. But if we come into this moment, things slowly will begin to calm down because the reason why we're anxious is because we don't know. We're changing so rapidly and we really don't know how to be in ourselves. We don't know what should we do now because we're not repeating the past and we get very fearful of the future. Oh my God, what if I do this and my whole world collapses? What if I do this? What if I follow my heart and I can't support myself? What if I do this and I have a nervous breakdown? And these are very common thoughts. So, the very first thing you want to do is to see if you can slow yourself down enough to just be right here and to begin to tell yourself, I am okay. Because for the most part, that is true. Now, sometimes that's not true. And for those of you, if you really don't feel okay, please reach out. There are so many people doing therapy and body therapy that didn't exist when I went through this, but today there's a plethora of helpers who really will understand what you're going through and will be able to guide you. But for the majority of people who will be able to slow themselves down, then the trick is to begin to notice when you're jumping ahead or jumping into the past, and which will be most of the time. So you want to be able to begin to kind of have a part of you that watches you and can say, "Oh, hang on. Come back. You're jumping too far ahead into the future and you're spending time agitated by the past." Does that make sense?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I love the way that you reinforce it. You reinforce anxiety because I have a more evolved audience, people that have been doing inner work for a long time, and they actually see business as our channel to be able to create without the structures or the systems that have most of us. I mean, I come from corporate, much like you, have put us into those corners of how we needed to operate. So I love that you said anxiety because for I mean right now I'm going through something else because this is how it always will be, and you just at the moment you just kind of love it, right? Because it's the process of getting to the next level and evolving. But I love that you said anxiety because a lot of us get scared from
Yes.
anxiety, and we start to make rational emotional decisions, and we stay stuck into those modes because of that. But it's actually the most beautiful way that our body reacts to to our next evolution and the things that we need to look at. So that's kind of the key takeaway that I think besides all the amazing details of being present with counting those tiny details in what you were seeing and all of that, bringing you back to the present moment, your body, talking to ourselves and telling ourselves that we're safe. I've gone through similar processes. But I love that you also mentioned the amazing humans that are doing all this work because it's so easy now for people to trick themselves and think ChatGPT is going to be their therapist. Kind of, I feel like that's kind of where we are right now, where people are just relying on ChatGPT to kind of help them navigate and guide them through these processes. But there's
So I
nothing like another beautiful human because we're all coded with different things, right? And the more we discover our gifts, the more we get to put those gifts in the world. And I think with eventually as we get through these transitory times of evolution with that as well, people are going to turn into each other because we're social beings. But I wanted to mention that because I do feel like that's kind of making a dishonor for people that are waking up and actually have their gifts, and they want to put them out there in the world through the channel of entrepreneurship or business, but they're afraid that ChatGPT is replacing them. So that just came up to me now because I wanted to lead our conversation as we are ending and approaching this beautiful conversation into business. Like, how do you now see business differently from when you began as an entrepreneur with that mission, with kind of the chains trying to break, that you wanted to do something else, lean into your inner voice and all of that. And how ChatGPT how do you think about the evolution of ChatGPT and the way that you look at business today?
Oh my God. Okay. So I want to say a lot about ChatGPT, which is it's a tool. It is not a human being. It will never replace human beings. And I want you to feel into the difference between when you're having a conversation with, say, a girlfriend or a therapist, and the energy that is transmuting between the two of you versus speaking with ChatGPT. Now, there is some brilliance if you use that as a tool correctly. If you're substituting it for another human being, you're going to find yourself very lonely because our energetic bodies know the difference. We know that sometimes it's not even the information you're getting, it's the energy that you're getting, the energy that is being fed to you by another human being. And while I'm all for new tools, I am definitely not for substituting humanness with a machine. And so we have to understand the role that ChatGPT can play for us and the role that it doesn't play. And if even hearing the human voice, the body reacts differently. So even if ChatGPT was going to talk with you, it doesn't have the energy of a human being that can recognize you, that can mirror back to you without even words. So for example, when a baby is born, the connection part of breastfeeding a baby isn't just uh, the breast milk, it's the connection between the mother's eyes and the baby's eyes. It's that energetic connection that they're receiving. They're receiving information through the mother's eyes. A hug, they're receiving the energy through a hug. So I think we must be very careful and mindful about what do we actually need? Do we need to be in the presence of that energy, or do we just need information? Information is different than transformation, than transmutation. It's very different. And we mustn't confuse the two because otherwise, I think people are going to find themselves very lonely.
Not to mention losing exactly what we've been saying, which is their self trust. Because now they don't trust their intuition. They're going to go and rely on, ChatGPT to give them the answers. And we're going backwards, right? If we
Well,
talk
I
about
hope
that.
not. I hope we're going to
So,
catch it and realize that I hope my hope is that maybe through working with it, people will come to realize, oh, the human connection, there is nothing like it.
yeah. I think that's why both of these are waking up parallel, meaning, right? The feminine and the masculine, if you want to call it, because ChatGPT is more of a mechanical, giving you information, guiding you. I mean, obviously it's the world's wisdom in there, meaning the world's information intelligence, but it's not going to give you the energy, the intuition that we all have inside of us, the presence that you get from another beautiful human. And I think at the end of the day, it's all the energy. We're waking up that we're all energy at the end of the day, and that is how we get to support one another and help each other through the work that we all do. So yeah, I don't know, it just came to me as you're talking about the way that you feel about it and your insight, as to
Yeah, so again, information is great, but it's not going to lead to your transformation. transformation.
Mm.
And the idea of trusting a machine over your own knowingness, because here's the thing, we are divinely guided. We are divinely guided from the outside, we are divinely guided from our own spirit. If you give over your your decision making to a machine, you are forgetting you're giving away your power. And so please use it as a tool, like, oh, this is great information. Now, how do I want to use it for my transformation and for everybody else's transformation that my only my divine spirit can know for me? And I think this is really essential, especially for where we're going. There will be in 2026, there will be a lot of upheaval on a earth plane level. We're going to see a lot of changes. And there may be times where you don't have access to your computer. And if you lose your own inner GPS, your own inner guidance system, this would not be a good time to lose it. You will need to have your own inner guidance system. So, how do you feel that? How do you know that? If you're not used to using it, what I want you to begin to notice is if you make a decision, how does it feel inside of you? Do you get the sense of a click, or is there not a click? When your divine spirit is trying to make a decision for you and helping you, there will be a sense of like click, like, oh yes, that feels in alignment with my body, emotions, spirit, and where I'm headed to. If you feel scrambled, that is not your intuition guiding you. That is your ego saying, you should be going this way. Don't you know all of the facts? Don't you know if you do it this way, like everybody is saying, it's going to lead to success? That has not been my experience. My experience is that if you're an entrepreneur, if you are somebody that is bringing new information or a new way of doing things, you're going to have to trust your inner knowing. You are trying to create a pathway that has never been made. So even all of the wisdom of the whole world, if what turns you on is creating something new, then all of that information is not going to be able to help you.
Right.
So this is where I'd like people to go inside, to bring your all of yourself inside in like a meditation. You don't have to meditate for hours, but it's like coming inside and asking, is this right for me? Is this in my highest good? Is this in the highest good of everyone else that I wish to serve? Will this bring me to my next step? And so beginning to journal, I think would be a great idea if you don't already journal. Many of you probably do. But write down what you feel and if you're going to follow it, and then take 3 months and look back. Did you follow it? And then what happened? And it's a great way to begin to track trusting yourself if you don't already trust yourself.
Nothing to add. Amazing, amazing. And it always comes back down to the body. I feel like the feeling, right? Because we all could feel, the next step or the next decision that we want to make. But again, a lot of us grew up not trusting our body either. So this would be a great start through those tools that you mentioned as well, and breath work and meditating. And we have words for these, but at the end of the day, just sit there, just stay there, even though it feels uncomfortable, because it will, until it starts to clear and you start to love it. And then,
Yeah.
I mean, it's hard to get me out in the world anymore. It's what happens, but that's a whole other conversation.
So
'Cause,
you mentioned something that stirred something in me. And when we talk about these things, it sounds like the answer is always there, that I know the next step. No, you may not know the next step for a few months. You may not know the next step for 15 minutes. But when you finally hear the next step, it will be clear. There will be the sense of like, Oh, yes, I will feel it on my physical body, my emotional body, my spiritual body. There will be a sense like inside of clarity. And until you get that, I wouldn't take action. And that's tricky when we're used to following certain patterns, certain ways of being, when we've done a job for forever and it was clear we knew how to do it. So if you're in that place where you don't know, allow yourself to take the time to say, it's okay not to know. And that for me is one of the hardest places. I like knowing. It feels safe. I don't like not knowing. And I've had to be there a lot in this long journey. But if it feels unsafe, be with that. Ooh, I don't like this. This feels really scary. That feels really unsafe. Yes, that's accurate. So, can you breathe into that and learn that it's safe in this moment? You're safe right this moment.
Yeah, there's the exercise of self trust. Trust that you don't know yet.
Yes.
And grow the patience just like in any other muscle, resiliency, hard work, determination, all of those things that most of us have learned throughout our journeys. These are also internal muscles to build, and patience until you get the clarity is actually the reward is amazing, because once you get the clarity you're like so sure. You're like,
Yes.
I don't need to ask ChatGPT. I don't need to ask my mom. I don't need to ask my husband. All the outside resources that we've been relying on for so long. So it ends now. I love it. And Ellen, when I say business to you now, what comes up for you?
Ah, so I think business used to feel separate from who I am. Like I had a skill, I knew how to do it, I was proficient, I did it very well. And it felt removed from me. Now, today, I find not all, but a lot of women want to do business that feels soulfully connected to who they are, so that they're not killing themselves to do something that they're good at, but that doesn't feel like that it's connected to them, to their soul. Like they have to be almost two different people. Now I feel like business is about soulfully connecting to ourselves and to our customers, to people that it's like we're in a soul family together and we're sharing our expertise in different ways, but it's more connected. It feels more organic than it used to feel.
Mm, I have the same feeling now. The way I look at different at business, and I always, to me, always connected that was a channel for creativity and for us to be authentic with our gifts. Because I don't know any other thing in the world. Obviously, it's, other than that, you just have to go into somebody else's system unless you create the entire system on your own. And I always thought that was entrepreneurship, but now, much like you, it's like business is just me. So once we do this, then it's not separate. It's not a separate area to focus on and put in a different energy, which is why we always felt the split of work life balance. And it's like, time for yourself needs to be structured out, and, family and all of that. Obviously, I'm not saying that everything is out the door. We still have to be intentional with how we create the harmony inside our own ecosystems. But much like you, I don't see it as different from my mission, why I'm here on earth, and what did I choose to the work that I'm choosing to do in the world, and how that should honor and fuel me and not actually deplete me, where I thought that in the old mode that's how I needed to do it, drive myself and burn out and achieve and never rest, because that's what it takes to create success. But now on the other end, it's like always me, and you're just projecting those things, that next step. And that next step can come in business, or it can come in your health, or it can come in your family. Just honor that. Going back to our initial conversation around trusting our intuition. So, Ellen, we have actually reached the end of this beautiful soul conversation. As these conversations are so fueling, they're not depleting, that we just want to, at least for me, I just always, like, there's no time right now. I'm just like immersed into present moment with you. But we do have to honor everybody's time and the next intention we have set for the day. So what is that beautiful container you have set for people? Who is it that you specifically feel called to serve, and how is it specifically that you are supporting them in the world with the work that you're doing?
You know, I serve women who feel soul sucked dry, who are exhausted from doing it the old way, hustle and grind, and who are looking to really connect with their soul self, their purpose, their creativity, and their voice.
I love that. And how is it that you do work with them? What are the containers you have created?
So people can work with me one to one, and right now that's the easiest way. And or they can read my book, which is Nothing Ever Goes On Here, and they can find it on Amazon, or they can listen to my music, and it's on all of the apps under my name.
Thank you so much, Ellen, for the beautiful work that you're doing and for sharing that. We will definitely include all the links, and I'm waking up to my voice much like you, so I'll definitely go listen to your music as well. And again, we all resonate with different things, but at least we began the conversation. And before we actually end, Ellen's going to do a beautiful sound healing exercise for us or leave us with that beautiful moment. So after that, we're just going to wrap up the interview. But before you leave, if you feel compelled, and this is pretty much the space and container that you feel called to be around and subscribe and share this with other beautiful souls. I appreciate your time. I appreciate you listening. And let's create more magic together where these conversations are, as Helen is doing in the world, lighting up our soul. Because when our soul lights up, everything else just always makes sense. Thank you so much for being here. And Helen, take away.